Since we're working on the top end anyway, why don't we go ahead and throw the injectors in there now? Dropping the injectors in is real easy. You're just going to lube your O-rings and drop them in the bores, and I'll show that yet. But fellas, I've had some issues before with injector trim codes. I've learned from my mistakes. If you have an engine that you're working on that you need to do injector trim codes, record everything. Record all the numbers off of every single injector. The part number, the trim code, everything. Off the old ones and off the new ones, and record that. I have a spot in my build sheet where I put that all in there, and the reason why I do that is because if you ever have to get the top of your engine apart to go back in and get a trim code off an injector, that can be a real pain in the butt, a real chore. So you're way better off to just take the time to record all of it and record it somewhere where you're not going to just lose it, because man, that sucks if you have to go back. Now in this case, these DT-466Es, these are not trim-coated injectors. I don't have to worry about that, so I'm not going to record anything on here, but I'm just saying. So you're going to grease the seals up a little bit. Sometimes these injectors come with seals, sometimes they don't. You want to make sure that they're there, as well as the copper washer on the end. And sometimes when I'm doing a rebuild, I'll reuse the old injectors. Sometimes I'll send them in and get them tested first. It just all depends, but in a case like this where this engine had all that metal in the fuel filter, you remember that? See in there, you can see all the shiny, glittery metal. Hopefully, maybe. When you have this style of an injector that's got that kind of metal in your fuel, then 9 out of 10 times you're dealing with at least one failed injector. And this engine had a lot of white smoke and hard starting and all this other kind of stuff for quite a while. Low fuel pressure codes and different stuff. So that's when you see that kind of metal in your fuel filter, that's kind of your sign right there that it's not really worth spending a bunch of time or effort on those injectors. It's just start shelling out the $100 bills and put new ones in. So that's what we're doing here. Not too sure on the high pressure pump. I don't know if it's ever been replaced before. They're really expensive, so I wasn't originally planning on doing that on this job, but I'm starting to have second thoughts about that. I'm going to have to talk to the customer again and just see if they want to spend the money on that or not. I know they want this engine to be good, and I'm all for that, but I'm also of the type that I like to see these parts go their max amount of time. Okay, so those are all cleaned up. Another thing I'll tell you from experience, when you're working on these injectors, they often come with these rubber caps on the nozzles. Don't take those caps off until you're about to put it in the motor, because if you drop that injector or bump it against something, it's easy to damage those nozzles. If that rubber is on there, you have a lot better chance at not destroying the tip if something happens. Okay, so with these injectors, there's an alignment tab on the hold down clamp, and that hold down clamp only fits in there one way. So that means it only fits on the injector one way. There's a notch there that you line up. So that's going to align your injector so it's in the right spot. So you can't really screw that up. Now these screws have a collar on them, so you can't take the screw out. So normally we would pop the injector in place by hand, and then you would take your clamp and slide it in there like that and then screw it tight, but you can't do that here because that screw is in the way. So what you have to do on these ones, they all have to go in together like so, and then you have to use that screw to pull them down into place. So you want to make sure you're well lubed and greased up here. So we'll take our tip off the end. We're done with that for now. Okay, so you just drop it down into place, get your screw lined up. You're going to let that clamp kind of pull that injector down into place. You can kind of wiggle it around a little bit and help it find its spot. It'll all of a sudden hit a point there where it wants to tighten up, and that's when the injectors are starting to seat into that injector cup. I like to wiggle them around. I don't know, I just feel like that helps them get set a lot better. There we go, that's pretty well bottomed. Yeah, we're bottomed out there. I think it's 35 foot-pounds is the torque on those. We'll get to that later. But there, for now, that one is installed. And now we'll do the next one. Alright, so we're going to set our Ford dyno to 30 pounds of feet. I was mistaken. Alright, we'll torque these guys up. It feels like I'm teaching some kind of shops class here. I don't even know who my pupils are. I hope you're learning something, enjoying it. I know I am. Even though I'm pretty much just standing here talking to myself all day. The double beeping, when I torque it the second time, you don't need to do that. I just do that to upset people, because some people get really bothered that you torque it twice. Okay, that's done. Injectors are installed. Now I think we'll go ahead and throw the push rods in and bolt the rocker assembly on. But first, I gotta clean up all this stuff. I have to repackage these because I need them as cores and I gotta bring them back. Well, just working at getting stuff cleaned up and ready to put in, and I found that for these rocker pedestals, you have your oiling seal or whatever that goes in. It's got a sealing washer that goes in each one of these, and I don't have new ones in the kit. They don't send new ones along with the Interstate McBee rebuild kit. They look like that. I'm missing one from disassembly. I don't know what I did with it, but ordered new ones. I'll put the part number right there. That's what you need to order if you're doing a DT-466E and you need those things. So that's fine. I'll just keep going on other stuff for now. Pump is on and torqued. I'm just waiting on the manifold and the ultrasonic cleaner to finish getting it cleaned up a bit, as much as I can. So I'm happy with how things are looking here. I think I'm going to go ahead and throw the front cover on. Alright, front cover is on and everything so far is torqued up. I still got a bracket that goes across the top here for those two bolts. I got some compressor mounts and different stuff there that'll put those bolts in. So I'll get to that later. Water pump's on. This was a new water pump, so I just put that one back on there. I had a new thermostat for it too, so I'm going to reuse the thermostat as well. And next is going to be the oil pump. Now that oil pump was all shot, remember? All the grooves here, how that gear is all chewed away and the housing is the same thing. So we got a new oil pump. Let's get that out and see what it looks like. I got our new seals. Whoop, it's coming right out of the bag. Well, it's pretty oily, so it definitely was not going to rust. Okay, if I take that plate off, here you can see how these gears are all nice and smooth. Nothing eaten inside there. That's the way it should look. All nice and smooth housing. well, you know what they say. If it's not one thing, it's something else. Things that are different are not the same. This one's got an oil gallery here, which the old pump does not have. Also, we have our guide pin really close to that bolt hole. Well, that's not the case here. So we have the wrong oil pump somehow. This was ordered by serial number, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. I'll have to figure that out, I guess. Looks like a nice kit. Comes with the seals, comes with a new wear sleeve, new bolt, but I guess I'll be sending that back. And I got one of my boys pressure washing some parts outside, and apparently the well pump isn't keeping up. Setback after setback after setback. Makes it hard to get any work done. Seems to be the way it goes these days. Two different sizes of bolts in this fan hub. Nothing is spaced the same. That's not a good sound. Wonder what broke. So we actually have 3 different bolts here for this hub, and it looks like that one big time stretched on me, so I'm going to put all 4 new bolts in there now. Story of my life. Well, I don't know. Let's try and bolt the oil cooler housing on and see if it breaks everything too, or maybe this isn't even the right gasket kit. I need scissors. Well, so far it looks right. Oh. Yep. Something like that. Don't start bolts with impacts. Bad things can happen. That's it. That went well. Oh, that didn't work this time. Some new gaskets in here. All right. Okay, let's bolt this oil cooler on here. I'm going to reuse the old one. I didn't really seem to see anything wrong with it outside of having a little bit of junk in the one port, which I cleaned out good as I could. There, that's on there. Okay, top end is cleaned up and ready to go onto there. Rockers, valve bridges, and push rods, and of course the pedestals. And I just sent Jeremy to town to get these washers. They came in this afternoon, so he picked them up for me. Honestly, I don't even know what these are for. They go on that side of the pedestal, but the oiling gallery is on this side, and there's no seal there. So that's your mounting bolts there. And that's where the oil comes through. So the oil feeds into that slot, then goes up around that bolt. But this side doesn't have nothing in there, so I don't know why there's a washer on that side. Not really sure what the significance of that is, but I got new ones anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and oil the push rods up and drop them all in there. And then I will put some oil and drop that onto each one of these valves, and then put the valve bridges all on there. And then I'm going to go ahead and throw these guys on. And then I will lube up all those bolts with my fancy Loctite lube and drop the rocker shaft on. Okay, so I dropped these rockers on, I snugged everything up, got all the push rods, everything all in line, and then I rolled the engine over a couple times just to make sure that everything was sitting the way it should be, and that was all good. Then I torqued them. Time to set the valves on here. So you have to have your engine in exactly the right position to do this. There's a lot of different procedures and a lot of different ways that you can do this. You have to set your engine to top dead center number 1 or top dead center number 6 is usually how it starts. And then you do a sequence of valves, and then you roll it over one turn, and then you do the other valves that you didn't set yet. And quite often you'll have different specs for your intake and your exhaust valves. On this particular engine, everything's 19 thousandths of an inch. So intake and exhaust, it's all 19 thousandths, so you don't even need to discern between intake and exhaust valves. They're all the same. So we just need to do each one in sequence, and that's it. So the first thing we have to do is roll it over to top dead center number 1, which I've already done. Now the easy way to do that is on a 6-cylinder engine like this, when you have these two valves, when you're turning the engine over and they start rocking, they start going like this, that's when you're at top dead center number 1. And just the same the other way around, if your intake and exhaust valves are rocking on number 1, that's top dead center number 6. Now I didn't actually explain that very well, because what does rocking mean? Well, I'll show you. I don't have a balancer on here to be able to determine where top dead center is. That's usually marked, and then there's a pointer that you can line it up to, and then you know. So don't have that, so we have to do it sort of the manual old-fashioned way. Okay, so if I turn this backwards, you can see that intake valve. This is your intake and that's the exhaust. You saw the intake coming up, and now your exhaust is going to start going down. Now remind you, I'm going backwards, right? Now if I switch this around again and go forwards, you're going to watch this exhaust valve is going to come up to the top and stop, and you're going to see the intake valve start to go down, and that's where we talk about rocking. You want to get it to the point where they're both moving at the same time. So the exhaust is just closing and the intake is just starting to open. That's where you want to go. Ready? Right there. You see how this one just started to move? This isn't exactly top dead center like we did it with a dial indicator, but it's close enough to have the cam in the right position that we can go ahead and set half of the valves. Now this motor is a 24 valve design, which means it's got a bridge across the intake and exhaust valves like that, so that when the rocker comes down, it pushes on both valves at the same time. So when you're checking your 19th valve clearance, you're going to go underneath that slipper and check right in between there. Now as it sits, I can't get this in here. Our valve lash is way too tight. And the reason why it's too tight is because we just had the head off. We have a different head gasket in here than what was in there originally, and this head was surfaced. So that brings the head lower down, which basically makes the push rod push higher up, and it takes up some of your gap here. So anytime you take an engine off, or anytime you take a head off, you always have to reset your valves after, right? So what we're going to do, this is our adjustment over here. So we're going to break this lock nut free. Well, that wasn't even very tight. One thing I really like about this engine is it actually has hex adjusters on here instead of those stupid flat head things, slotted screwdriver stuff. So now we're just going to back this off a little bit, and what we're going to do is take that 19 thousandths feeler gauge, and we're just going to work it in here. There, now I can get it in there. I can't get it all the way in, but I can get it in there some. So we're going to continue to back it off. There you go, now we're in there. So what we're looking for is we want to tighten this adjuster onto that feeler gauge until there's just a nice little bit of pressure. You should be able to get it in and out, but it should drag a little bit. See, now it's too tight. Now I already can't move it, so I'm going to back this off just a touch. There you go. Now it's perfect right there. I have just a really nice little tiny... I'm going to adjust it a bit more. There we go. Nice little bit of drag there. So now, without moving that adjusting screw, I'm going to take my 15 mil wrench and tighten this lock nut. Now, most of the time I find that when you tighten the lock nut, you lose some of your tension here. So sometimes I have to set it a little bit tight on here, and then after I adjust it here, then we have the right amount of, what's the word? Drag on that feeler gauge. So I've got this snugged up a bit, and let's just see how we did. Yeah, it's a little bit too loose now. So then what I got to do, I'm going to back this off, snug that just a hair, and then tighten it up again. Let's see now. It can go a little more yet. This is all by feel. There we go. That's what I want. Now I just got a nice little bit of drag there, so that feels just perfect. So there we go. That one is done. We have to torque that nut yet, but right now we're good. So same thing, we're going to move on to the next one, which you probably can't even see that. So same thing, you don't want to check it on there, you want to check it here. But this is, oh, it gets in there, but I can't quite get it all the way. It's just too tight. So same thing, loosen off our lock nut. I'm going to back this guy out just a little bit. There we go, now we're in there. Oh, not quite, I'm mistaken. There, now it's in there. Okay. Let's just turn it until we got, okay, right there and there. Now it's a little bit too tight. I'm going to tighten this lock nut. Oh, and I got just a beautiful amount of just a little tiny bit of drag there. Yeah, just nice and, oh, it just feels great. The short rockers are the exhaust, the long rockers are your intake. So this is an intake on number 2. So we got intake, exhaust, intake. We're going to set this intake as well because that's the next one in the sequence. If you don't know the sequence by heart, your book always tells you which ones you can do in those 2 engine positions. Oh, this one's just a little bit too snug. Oh man. It fits, but it's a little bit too tight. No, we got to make it right. Oh, this one's a little bit tricky to get at here. You know what? I'm going to take this lifting eye off. Give me just a second. Okay, let's try this again now. I'm going to back that off. I'm going to back this off just a touch, and I'm going to tighten it. Oh, I actually went too far. Okay, let's try that. Oh, that's mint. That's perfect right there. It's just exactly what I want. Yep. All right, I will do the rest of them in sequence. and then we'll keep on trucking. Their valves are set, and I actually took this whole coolant manifold off again because I forgot to put this pipe in when I put that on. So I put that pipe in there and retorqued all that. So that's done, and that's it for today. At this point, I'm gonna pack up tools and head home, and we'll come back tomorrow and do some more.